Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm Tim Flacco, the chair of the advisory board for the Northern Plains Ethnic Institute, the host organization for today's event. I am also provost for Tri-College University, a partnership of 35,000 students strong with members at Concordia College, MSUM, NDSU, M-State, and NDSCS. I'm past chair of the North Dakota Senate Committee and the Midwestern Higher Education Compact and Partnership representing 4.2 million college students. The Northern Plains Ethics Institute, or NPEI, mission is to promote democratic participation in social and ethical issues affecting the Northern Plains and beyond. We fulfill this by challenging and engaging citizens at various discussions, and today is one of those days. Please note that this event is being recorded and will be available for viewing by NPEI in the near future. Today, our guest is Representative Mike Lefor. Representative Lefor is the North Dakota House Majority Leader, which is comprised of 94 members elected. He has also been president of Black Ridge Enterprises, LLC. He's a graduate of Dickinson State University, president of the Dickinson Park Board, past chairman of the CHI St. John's Hospital, and served on the city commission. He was first elected in 2014 and has served on 16 standing committees and interim committees and has risen briskly through the ranks. He has served as chair as a member of the Industry, Business, and Labor Committee, Interim Retirement Committee, and other committees that he has served on include Energy, Natural Resources, Ethics, Interim Legacy Funds, and Legislative Management. Representative Lefor is also a Build Fellow for the Council of State Governments. Leader Lefor is here today to tell us about House Bill 1446 that he has sponsored to reimage tenure, as he describes it. We're fortunate to get a preview of the bill by the bill's author and sponsor even before it gets a hearing. The hearing is scheduled for this Friday, I believe at 8:30, before the House Government and Veterans Affairs Committee. Representative Lefor will tell us about the genesis of the bill, the amendments to the bill that he has proposed, and will be bringing to the committee on Friday's hearing, and why he feels the bill is important to North Dakota. We are at an advantage today because we get to talk with him and share our thoughts with him today and in the days before the hearing in a variety of different ways, because I know he has certainly been willing to listen. I think he's on his fourth. If you know the nomenclature of legislative bills, it's on his eighth rendition of the bill. So feel free to send questions to me or the full group, but I strongly encourage those to be focused and well-articulated questions presented with an economy of words. This will allow us to get to as many questions as possible, because those will all go through there. So we won't be allowing people in to chat. You have to use it and type it in. I'll go through them and bundle when appropriate. If you did not get to your question today or one that you thought of afterwards, you can email Representative Lefor at mlefor@ndlegis.gov. There's a dual role and complimentary today. As bill sponsor, Representative Lefor is here to inform us what's in the amended version of the bill, the 4004 version, and he also, I would note, has a high pass rate of 86% on bills he sponsored as prime sponsor. So one might predict that this bill could well pass in some form out of committee. So in that case, it is our goal to also share with him what might best shape that bill going forward. So in essence, a dual duty. If you wish to contact members of the House Government and Veterans Affairs Committee, they will hold the hearing on Friday, and the committee is chaired by Representative Austin Schauer of District 13 in Bismarck. I remind campus employees that when they're speaking or writing as a citizen, they should do so as a citizen and not on behalf of your campus unless so designated. And we'll probably talk about written testimony that gets supplied later. So with all of that, Representative Lefor, you have the floor to talk about your bill, House Bill 1446.
Well, Senator Flacco, thank you, and Professor Cooley as well for this invitation. I always embrace the opportunities to have a dialogue on legislation, and so I'm happy to be with all of you this morning. What I wanted to say too, before I get into the bill, is that I have had some feedback, and I'm more than happy to entertain additional feedback. So that's the reason for the amendments going in. The reason that I sponsored what I call the Tenure with Responsibilities Act is that I believe we need to have a mechanism for tenured professors to be reviewed by university presidents as it comes to job performance. In other states like Florida and Texas, they've either recently introduced a statute or policy for a post-tenure process similar to what's being proposed in this bill. In fact, I did take some of the ideas from the Florida legislation. And as we all know, higher education is becoming a more complex, more competitive market for our young people and adults. And as everybody knows, if you look at available data, you'll find more students taking classes online than ever before. That means that students can literally have their pick of hundreds of universities across the country for their courses. I know of an individual in my hometown who's taking courses from a university in another state rather than North Dakota due to a lower cost. And so I know our taxpayer-supported universities are moving forward with strategies to remain competitive in the marketplace, realizing these changing demographics and aligning with other groups to provide the best educational opportunities. And so two of these universities are changing their business models to provide more of the opportunities right here in North Dakota. Dickinson State University is changing to a dual mission campus. And just a couple of years ago, another legislator, myself, worked to develop a task force for a career and tech academy in Dickinson. And Dickinson State University and staff played a pivotal role in helping with the development of the Career and Tech Academy in Dickinson, which we're hoping will offer courses this coming fall. But at the end of the day, we know it's a changing business model that we're involved with today. And so we need to change with that environment and recognizing some of the things that we need to do to change that. So as I said, Dickinson State University is changing to a dual mission campus, and Bismarck State University is also providing more polytechnic courses. So they're aligning, as I said before, the career and tech academies, local high school, and adding technology to provide more classes online. Recognizing those challenges, the Tenure with Responsibilities Act provides for a pilot program within these two institutions to mirror some of the policies being enacted in other states. And recognizing that this is a 4-year pilot program, if for some reason it needs tweaking or we can change things, we can certainly do that in 2 years. But I'd like to be able to give this thought process the ability to move forward because of the fact that the business of higher education is changing so rapidly. And so we're contained within the bill. So I'll go through some bullet points, and then I'll also go through some of the amendments. And the amendments, a lot of the ideas are coming from people in higher education. So some of the basic components to make sure that we have a successful business model and a cost-effective business model for not only for the taxpayers who are paying a portion of this, but also the students. Those are the number one that in our thoughts as to how can we be competitive in the marketplace with tuition and more efficiencies and better costs for the taxpayers of North Dakota. So there's several different components. So number one is generate tuition or grant revenue more than the combined total of the salary, fringe benefits, compensation, and other expenses of the tenured faculty member. The cost can be adjusted for tenured faculty member to reflect their assumption of administrative responsibilities were applicable, comply with the policies and procedures of and directives of the institution, the president and other administrators, the Board of Higher Education, and NDUS. Effectively teach and advise a number of students approximately equivalent or equal to the average campus faculty and advising load. and in help recruit and retain students for the institution, help students achieve academic success, further the best interests of the institution, including providing advice and governance with campus leaders, exercising mature judgment, and to avoid inadvertently harming the institution. In addition to that, perform all other duties that are applicable within the contract. Another portion of the bill provides for a faculty review by presidents of the institution as follows. Number one, the president of each institution, under the control of the Board of Higher Education, may review performance of any or all duties and responsibilities under the first part of this bill. Explains what happens when a president feels a tenured faculty member has failed to comply with a duty or responsibility. The president may not renew the contract of the tenured faculty member unless the president articulates why it is in the best interest of the institution to continue to employ that faculty member. And the president may enlist the assistance or the help of administrator or the institution to conduct a review, but may not delegate responsibility for the review to a faculty member who is not an administrator. And when conducting a review, the president may look at other factors, including what's in the best interest of the institution or its students. For example, a professor teaching a few students and the university needs the courses for a bachelor's program, it gives the presidents a lot of latitude. And it states that the presidents and the administrators shall fulfill these duties without the fear of reprisal or retaliation. We all know that the cost of higher education in our state continues to grow, and we're the stewards of the taxpayer, elected to represent them. We also need to be competitive for the future and changing ways in which educational opportunities are afforded. Other states have enacted policy for similar reviews, and I saw no reason why North Dakota couldn't be part of that as well. As far as what House Bill 1446 is attempting to accomplish, again, I said it's a pilot program for Dickinson State University and Bismarck State, mainly for the purpose of their changing business model. When university presidents come to the legislature, they are questioned, they are grilled about their operations and the costs associated with those operations, including faculty salaries, staff salaries, other operational costs, and then capital construction as well. And we all know that those costs continue to grow. So I think it's important for us as legislators to recognize that if we're going to grill these university presidents on the performance of their universities, it's also important to give them control over their staff and direct review by the president. So again, as I said before, it has about a dozen main components to it. And so I have some other commentary too, and we did some checking here in my office about the number of times a tenured faculty member lost his or her position for cause, and it's a handful of people in the last 5 years. So if it's for cause, if it does not happen at least occasionally, then I don't believe there's any meaningful review in place. You can't have it both ways. If there's already meaningful review and lots of responsibilities, then nothing will change with the Tenure with Responsibilities Act. In my opinion, in reality, tenure has become, as a practical matter, a lifetime appointment, absent outrageous behavior. Mere non-performance is not sufficient to lead to a non-renewal. Again, my opinions. It should be just as it is for the vast majority of jobs. They get special status and they get paid more. If the tradition is for them to do less, it's time to end that tradition. Tenure is often granted in the 7th year of service to university. And even when one is productive in his first 6 years of service, that doesn't guarantee that 10, 20, 30 years later that they're going to continue to be productive. Now, I will say this, and I'll defend this, that the vast majority of tenured professors in the state of North Dakota are highly productive and huge assets for the universities in this state, not only teaching, but researching in a lot of other ways. And so I support these individuals as well. But I think one should be expected to be productive throughout their entire career, not just the first 6 years. One should be expected to be meaningfully reviewed throughout one's career. The higher education system is complex and changing rapidly, with more courses being offered online, more career and tech academies competing for students. And I believe that changing times require changing dynamics in order for us to more effectively compete in the future. And I wanted to share a little bit an email that I received from a tenured professor at Dickinson State University. It's interesting how you can have tenured professors at universities, the same university, that have a wide difference. Because I was questioned at a forum by tenured faculty members that said, recruiting students is not part of our bit of what we should be doing. And so I will quote a tenured Dickinson State University professor, quote, "I take my tenure very seriously and consider tenure a privilege and obligation to serve my university through student-centered teaching, creation of new programs, recruiting, and scholarship. In my department, I have the privilege of working with like-minded and hardworking faculty, all who have been teachers in K through 12 classrooms. The faculty in my division are veteran teachers who actively participate in recruiting and advising for nearly 200 students. We've tried hard to grow our education program and increased our FTE count by 22%, mainly through distance learning programs. Unfortunately, there are senior faculty, tenured faculty at Dickinson State who oppose change and perceive tenure as a means to block growth and keep their teaching loads small. Some tenured faculty even think tenure is an excuse for poor teaching and allows them to pick and choose which students they will teach and which programs they'll support. It's time to hold all faculty accountable, including tenured faculty," end quote. So, and the professor goes on to say that this is the 5th university that she has been employed with, and that it's a vindictive culture with faculty attacking other faculty. And I believe it's partially due to the fact that meaningful review by fellow faculty members doesn't work. And I'm very resolute in that. I believe that you need to give the university president the ability to make the final decisions and do the review directly without taking it to faculty for approval. Now, as far as the amendments to House Bill 1446, there are a few. There is, when we talk about the review, and I have to find it here, on page 2, line 17, where it said a review under subsection 1 may, I changed to must include a written assessment of whether the faculty member is complying with the duties and responsibilities. And I was asked to change that to must, and I did. A review under the section is not reviewable by a faculty member or faculty committee. A faculty member whose contract is not renewed or whose employment is terminated or suspended as a result of review under this section may appeal the review to the North Dakota University System Chancellor. The president is also subject to review and assessment by the State Commissioner of Higher Education, the State Board of Higher Education, for the reviews the president conducts under this section. So the president cannot go and arbitrarily start non-renewing professors because these can be appealed to the chancellor. An additional component is that the state shall indemnify the members of the Board of Higher Education, the president of an institution of higher education, or an administrator of an institution of higher education for all reasonable costs, including attorney's fees incurred in defending any actions taken pursuant to those provisions. Additionally, there's wording that has been taken out on page 2, lines 6 through 8, and I quote, this is the wording that was taken out in regard to inadvertently harming the institution. Quote, especially in avoiding the use of social media or third-party internet platforms to disparage campus personnel or the institution. And so those words have been stricken from the original bill. And so that's it in a nutshell as far as what the bill attempts to accomplish. I believe that for our universities to grow, we have to change the business model, as these two universities are doing. It only affects these two universities. It gives the presidents the opportunity to take a good look at production and how everybody can get on the same page with all aspects of making a university grow. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions or comments. I am also very amenable to different language that might be concerning. I'm like I said, these changes have come about as in regard due to the fact that I've had conversations with the general public, with tenured faculty across the board. This is not meant to be punitive. It's meant to change the way that the business is being done at our universities so that everybody can be looking in the same direction and moving forward to be more competitive, more efficient in the future. So with that, Senator Flacco, I would open it up for comments or questions.
Yeah, if anybody again has a question or a comment that they wish to share, just please send it either to the everyone option, or you can send it directly to me, which some have done. Representative Lefor, one of the people asked if it's possible to get a copy of the amended 4004 version, and I would actually offer up if you want. We can.
Yes, okay Senator Flacco, please, you have that, so please send it to anybody that you wish.
And is it okay if we post it on our website also?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I want to be as transparent as I can possibly be. And I did get another amendment that makes sure that it does not, that section 2 does not pertain to any university other than Dickinson State and Bismarck State, and I will incorporate that as well. And again, these are suggestions I'm getting from across the state, and I'm trying to have as open mind as I can on this issue. I know it's controversial, but I believe that this is a good way for our universities to go forward. But I'm more than happy to engage in any dialogue that anyone would like to have.
So I guess one of the things I should have probably said at the beginning is that we offer up platforms where people can speak both pro and con, and that Northern Plains Ethics Institute or Tri-College nor NDSU is taking a position on this or bill or anything else related to that. So I just want to make sure that people, we're not endorsing or we don't take votes for or against anything. One of the things that I was reading in the both versions, I think, of the bill, Representative, is on page 1, line 14, where it talks about how they're evaluated based upon generating more tuition and grant revenue. I'm not really seeing language in there that includes that money that they would generate from teaching courses to students on where they get the money from the funding formula. So if you teach 300 level course, the base price is this amount, that times the weighting factor, if it's a 300, maybe it's a 3.8. Is that part of the intent, is that whatever they generate, because it's based upon number of students taught, because the questions come up about higher level have smaller classes, but they're also have a larger weighting factor. So that's kind of my question, Representative Lefor.
Well, that's a very good question. And when I've gotten some data from different universities in regard to that, And so there would have to be conversations about how you're being, let's say, more than fair when you're weighting those factors, because we all recognize that there's tenured faculty that have a lot of other responsibilities, a lot of other duties, but that within the bill, it gives the presidents of the university the ability to make that distinction. So while these are parameters, it ultimately comes down to the university president deciding that, well, look, I've got a tenured faculty member, they teach 2 classes. However, they are doing these different responsibilities, be it research or something else that that is in the best interest of the university. So it leaves it in the hands of the university president to make those types of decisions.
I have a question here from the chat box. In 2001, the most recent North Dakota University system data available, DSU had the highest faculty turnover at 21.7% among the system, within the system, and DSC, pardon me, faculty turnover rate was 9.17. How do you expect a bill like this will impact faculty turnover, recruitment, and retention for the institutions, which is kind of one of the big questions that is circled around this topic?
Sure. Well, I would tell you that it at the end of the day, what the bill tries to accomplish too is try to change mindsets as well. It's all about being lean and mean for the future. It's important to recognize, I think, that everyone needs to be on board with doing all aspects of growing a university. When you talk about turnover in universities, Dickinson State University has had some turnover. I don't know the exact number of students. You made that, excuse me, professors. You just cited some statistics, but to me, it's not about what's happened in the past, because I think the way you effectively gauge turnover is going to be by, do you have an environment that is, as a tenured professor, I just told you, is quote unquote vindictive? Or you have one that's highly productive where everybody's working in the same direction. So when you have a certain mindset and you have a certain culture that you're trying to change, it's important that everybody gets on board. So if there's turnover, I'd ask why. Are you concerned about an aspect of your job that you don't feel you're being productive in? Or can we help to change the mindset of those people that are that might not be teaching the load that they need to do, or recruit, or what have you? So I believe it's a mindset. It's a not just the review process. It's going to take changing hearts and minds to grow universities in a more positive fashion.
And again, we're getting questions in, but I would remind people to try to use an economy of words as much as possible, because I'm trying to read them and it's hard to multitask with a 100 plus word question. One of the questions that came to us before today was, and it circles around the evaluation. And this is kind of a 2-parter. How do we make sure the numbers say what the numbers mean, so that, and then secondly, how do we know if it's a blip or is it a ongoing problem with an individual? So what is kind of the look back period? Is it the last 5 years, the last 10 years, a period since tenure? I'm not sure if I saw that in the bill.
No, there is no look back provided in the bill. Again, it gives the presidents the ability to make a lot of these decisions. So when you say the numbers, well, we still have to make better. When you talk about the weighting system and credits and things like that, the university presidents need to make great decisions when it comes to all of this. So I keep coming back to that there's a tremendous amount of flexibility in here. The university presidents have the ability to address it directly with the professor and saying, look, the average student load is 100 and you're at 12. That needs to be addressed. Now, is it something that is beyond the professor's control? There's just a whole bunch of intangibles that come with this process. But Well, I guess that's how I would answer the question.
So how would we make sure, and I'm kind of bundling here a little for those that are joining us, how would we make sure that this was not used as a tool for retribution? Say, for example, there's one cited, there's a atheist university president from firing a faculty member who identifies as Christians.
Well, I don't think presidents will do that if they want to succeed. Remember, these appeals go to the chancellor. So the chancellor, I would suspect if the president, they better have their ducks in a row if they're going to terminate somebody. This is not something that I would say, hey, let's go fire a lot of tenured professors. Not at all. As I said before, I'm a strong supporter of the North Dakota University system, and there are a lot of wonderful things that are done on the 11 campuses across the state. But if presidents want to succeed, they'll want to advance their institutions so they themselves can earn positive reviews. I believe only a foolish president would even attempt to get rid of a productive faculty member simply because the faculty member criticizes the president, which is their right to do. Also, nothing within the Tenure with Responsibilities Act permits a president to non-renew a productive faculty member who criticizes the president. There's nothing in there for that. The bill only allows for optional non-renewal for unproductive faculty members under the specified criteria that's in the bill. I do hope presidents would not fall for the ploy of a non-productive faculty member criticizing the president in an attempt to shield themselves from potential non-renewal under this act, but that non-productive member also should not gain some sort of special status simply by criticizing the president. Instead, the non-productive faculty member should turn themselves into a productive faculty member or look for work somewhere else. So this act is not for getting rid of critics of presidents. It's about getting rid of unproductive faculty members. So students who pay tuition and North Dakotans who pay taxes are not forced to continue to pay the salaries and other compensation costs of unproductive faculty members. We should require that all government employees, including tenured faculty members, be productive employees who earn their salaries and their other compensation. So at the end of the day, if a president uses it for retaliation, I think they do it at their own peril because the chancellor is going to be judging the university presidents on that in the same fashion.
So I'll just do a quick follow-up on that because the chancellor works for the board. Can the board override the chancellor?
In my opinion, yes, I believe they have that ability now.
Okay. One of the things that's come up with this very at great length is about academic freedom. That seems to be a lot of times what some of the early discussion was about, Representative Lefor. So does your amended bill do anything to remove any encroachment on academic freedom? Because again, we're at at a point past. There's been some people that have talked about this and take positions on this bill, but this bill isn't what that was. So where are we at with academic freedom in the bill?
I don't think that it's addressed in the bill. If there needs to be some wording that gets added for that, this is not about presidents going into classrooms and saying this is how you must teach or how you must not teach. So again, if there's additional wording that needs to be provided for that, I'm very open to that.
I'm just going to I'm going to single one out because it may not get asked on Friday, but what do you have in terms of when, if you measure them based upon direct student numbers that they teach, how about in the case of music where they have one-on-one sessions for lessons and the like? What's the provision to make sure that that's a full hour for them, but yet they're not teaching a whole lot of students during that time? So what do they have in place for that?
Again, it's to the discretion of the university president. Let's take a look at it from a 30,000 foot view. A president might look at what's going on in a music department or an arts department or history department, whatever that department is, and say, I understand this situation is what it is. And we embrace that in this university. We want those students to come here and not change anything at all. This does not require presidents to review anybody. It's optional. It said may review. There are that yeah, the two university presidents can take this and not do anything different than what's being done now. So it just allows the president, if they feel there's an unproductive faculty member, that they can have that discussion.
And I'm trying to pull the next question here. I'll just grab it without proofreading reading it. In an accountability annual review, senior faculty, chairs, and deans know if tenured faculty are working at or above expected performance. This should be key in providing information on why the provost and then the president, and then to the president, pardon me. Why is this bill drawing upon existing structures to provide key insight into who is or is not complying, expected job performance, or completing, expected job performance?
Senator, could you repeat that? I had some noise in here that I
okay. In an accountability annual review, senior faculty, chairs, and deans know if tenured faculty are working and at what, if they're above, expected performance. This should be key in providing information to the provost and then the president. Sorry, I keep getting little things here. Why isn't this bill drawing on existing structures to provide key insight into who is not completing expected job performance?
Well, I would say this, that at the end of the day, faculty would still be reviewed by their supervisors. But I don't think meaningful review takes place. And I know that that'll just light up a firestorm. But at the end of the day, you've got a handful of tenured faculty members in the last 5 years who have been terminated with cause. We've got situations at universities that I'm very well aware of, that you have some faculty members that throw darts, for lack of a better term, to people that are highly productive. And so when I talk about a vindictive environment, and the president has to go through the faculty review process, and I just don't think that's right. I disagree with it. I don't think so. If that changes that, I'm all for it. But the deans in the different schools, absolutely, they can and should have some say in that talk, or knowing what their professors are doing and saying, how they're performing is very important, and that's part of the process that the president could utilize in reviewing. Talk to the department chairs and things like that. But just to have a review by faculty colleagues, I don't think is effective, and that's why this bill is moving forward.
So help me better understand. Is the president kind of the final arbiter of this, and they get recommendations based upon some kind of performance at whether it's the department chair, their dean, or whomever? Because when you're looking at hundreds of faculty, that's a lot of information for a president to go through. I mean, is that kind of the process? What's the process if there's some, say, Billy Smith, or a fake name, does not seem to be coming to work, doing work. They teach very little, using your, what I'll call worst case scenario, not much outreach in, producing anything like that. Are they identified and then moved forward, or is it the same with everyone?
Well, I think that in moving forward, the president can certainly visit with department chairs and say, where are we at? But there's also data that, I've seen data when you talk about the financial impact, the number of students being taught, that's easy to pull up that data. But what isn't is that, so let's say that a president decides, well, I want to go department by department. Dean, what do you think? What do you think about the people that work for you? And then review the other applicable data that is included in what are the financial aspects of it? What are the what's the attitude of the professor being part of a team going forward versus those who may not be?
I was hoping someone would ask this question, but it revolves around excellence all the way across the board. If you're in sports, say you're a baseball player, you may be excellent at hitting, but not base running. You know, the great ones are 5-tool players. You're asking with this, it seems like people to be a 5-tool player. And so the question is that came in from the audience is not all faculty are good at everything. Some are excel at scholarly activity or grant writing, but terrible recruiters or instructors of introductory or large enrollment classes, and vice versa. Forcing all faculty to contribute equally in all areas may not be the best, most cost-effective way to do that.
Well, I agree with that. And I know, and a part of that is not everybody has the same skill set. When you go into the private sector, that like I've been in for 35 years, you recognize there's different skill sets that take to overall team performance. Is one person a better base hitter? Is it one a better home run hitter? But again, the university president still has all of those tools at their disposal to say, here's what the situation is with Professor X. They're a music teacher. They teach 18 students. They're doing a great job. Their attitude is wonderful, and they're doing all they can to advance the university in the best possible way. So I would tell you this, that it's still up to the president to visit with the deans about every team member. Is everybody contributing to the best of their ability? There's a lot of flexibility in this. This isn't dyed in the wool. If the President Dickinson State and Bismarck State don't want to do any reviews in this regard under this bill, they don't have to. There's nothing that says that they have to do it.
So one of the couple people have written things about the review process. How would this be different than the current review process that's underway right now in order to accomplish whatever goals you hope that this accomplishes?
Well, I would just say this, at the present time, the reviews are conducted by department chairs, who is a faculty member, colleague of the person being reviewed. And sometimes to keep the peace and protect positions in their department they don't want to lose, they get glowing reviews, even if the faculty member being reviewed is not productive. I encourage everyone to read the reviews over the past several years to see how they're doing. In reality, not every faculty member, just not like every legislator, not every restaurant server, not every plumber is superb. The faculty review process conducted by colleagues of those being reviewed instead of by administrators is, in my mind, not identifying unproductive faculty members. When was the last time that a tenured faculty member in North Dakota University system lost his or her job for cause short of criminal or other outrageous behavior? If that doesn't at least happen occasionally, then I don't see how any meaningful review is being done. So you can't have it both ways. If there's already meaningful review and lots of responsibilities, then nothing significant changes under this act. In reality, tenures become, as a practical matter, at least in some institutions of this state, a lifetime appointment, absent outrageous conduct. Mere non-performance has not been sufficient to lead to a non-renewal. It should be, as it is with a majority of jobs.
So Representative Lefor, another question kind of comes along the lines of, what do you hope for in terms of outcomes? What's not being done now that you think, and we're kind of maybe asking a similar question in a different
No,
way
that's-
here, but what's your ideal outcome with the bill
The ideal outcome is that
or
it's
the
a
problem itself?
it's a top-down situation. The present university has the ability to review tenured faculty. They can get input from they should get input from the deans and so forth. But at the end of the day, I think that the president should have the final decision on who is renewed or not renewed based on the parameters of job performance in their contract, in the financial data, in the operational data, just like any other entity would. If this bill does not say, and I wouldn't advocate for, removing tenure. That's not what this is about. Because they're highly productive. The vast majority, I mean, I'd say 99.9 are productive professors. But there is that element out there that is not productive. And I don't believe a meaningful review is being done in all fairness, when the statistics will show that there just aren't that many tenured professors in North Dakota that are dismissed for cause. And you have how many professors across, you take that against any other industry sector. And where is it true like it is true in the university system? I don't see it.
So one of the questions that came up relates to that, as far as if a business fails to grow, you don't penalize the employees necessarily, but you change out the leadership. And it was cited about campus in your area. If in addition, the demographic realities of Western North Dakota are daunting, and we certainly have a problem statewide and nationally with the lack of growth in campuses because there just are fewer students. You seem to believe that if essentially eliminating tenure will lead to enrollment growth. Is that
No, I'm not. I don't support the elimination of tenure.
Yeah.
I do not support the elimination of tenure.
I'm reading?
That's not what this bill is about. And I personally don't support the elimination of tenure.
Is your bill based upon any other states or any other data? I had Midwestern Higher Education Compact pull some things together, and there's a few states like Florida and others that have proposed things. Is it based upon that, or are there data sets that show that this is something to look at? I know certainly there's talk and there's some about ways to improve performance, and I'm looking for it here, but I won't find it in time, so I'll just ask that question.
Well, the answer is yes. I've spent a great deal of time. If this has been just so there's some history to this. When I came into the legislature, and it was actually in the summer of 2015, and our local university, our foundation was in terrible shape. And Senator Rich Warner asked me to do some analyzing of what's going on, because Dickinson State was in a very bad way at that particular point in time. And I reviewed the finances, and you had, in my mind, a significant amount of non-productive faculty members, but that was because of the leadership, the presidents. So this is not all on faculty. As you said, it takes great leaders to lead great organizations. So this is all about, the presidents need to be evaluated by the chancellor, and the chancellor needs to be evaluated by the higher ed system, and the professor or the staff need to be evaluated by the president. So, but you also ask about bills. Yes, there are several, and I am the one who brought this forward. No one else. I've been involved with this for 8 years. I've done a lot of things to help the university system in North Dakota, which I think would be acknowledged by those in leadership positions here at the Capitol in Bismarck for many, many years. That I'm a strong supporter of the North Dakota university system. But I brought this forward. No one else did. And the other component to this is, yes, part of the thought process that I brought together in this legislation is because of legislation in Florida, legislation in Texas, and a couple of other states that are looking at this process. And sometimes they're taking a little bit different approach. But as I said before, I'm a strong believer that the president should be able to make the final decisions on faculty. But I am very amenable to changes in the wording. If there's some unintended consequence or something like that, I would embrace conversations. I believe that we can have a nice, healthy, robust conversation about this, keeping it positive. Again, this is not punitive. This is one component of many that I have looked at. And I think I've done my homework in trying to move our university systems forward to be highly competitive. I have a son who's a professor at a private university. They don't have any tenured professors. In fact, the president of the university has to go in to be appointed every year, as does my son. There is absolutely no tenured protection there, and that university is absolutely thriving. So if we got a few bad apples, let's do all we can to make those universities grow so that it benefits the students, their other faculty members, administration. So everybody's looking in the same direction. But I will say, yes, I believe that I've seen some universities that have had leadership that has not been very good. So it's on all levels, but there needs to be accountability from faculty to president, president to chancellor, chancellor to the Board of Higher Education. But again, Senator Flacco, as I said, it's important for me to let everyone know that it's an honest attempt to make our university system better, and I have other thoughts as well. And I welcome the dialogue. I welcome the ideas that anyone would have in this. But we all know that we have a huge changing environment especially with COVID coming on, so that more and more students are taking classes online, and they're taking classes all across the country. So what's it going to take to make North Dakota universities, how are we going to be set apart from the competition throughout the country? And that's what this bill, at least in a small way, tries to accomplish.
Okay, so I'm going to pin you down. We got about 5 or 6 minutes left here. So you acknowledge there is a current review process, but you are looking to modify what they're reviewed on. You're looking to add a couple specific components to that? Question mark?
Yes, I believe that the financial aspect is also an important one.
Okay.
That if you are a professor who teaches, let's say, 13 students a semester, and the revenue that's coming in, again, this is up to the president. The president might say, well, I need that particular class for a bachelor's degree or what have you. The president does not have to do anything about that. But a financial component should be a way, just like in the private sector, we were paid on performance, 100%. That we worked on a commission basis, and if we're successful, we were rewarded. So there's nothing in this bill that requires a president to review anybody. It just gives them the tools that they need. I do not believe that a faculty review of faculty is effective, but that's my opinion. And so I just believe it's very important for us to do whatever we can to set North Dakota universities apart from other universities across the country.
So with your bill, then, are you suggesting that they add, in some cases, I mean, different campuses have different scenarios, another additional review process or two, because if it goes to the president, it's not going to the president and the chancellor, that's another, essentially everybody along the line would have to say yes for them to be terminated.
Yes, I believe that's true.
Is it
I-
harder? Is it harder or easier under your scenario to get terminated? Do you think?
I would say under this bill it'd be easier.
Do you have any? I'm going to see if there's kind of closing. We've had great questions today, and I want to thank everyone for that. But one question I'll jump in. There's a 6-year probation period, and the process of being reviewed for tenure already kind of weeds out some of the people that maybe aren't a good fit, kind of deselects them, as they say. But you want to add, how do we make sure that, do you think there's still those that exist? I think you've stated that, but I want to go back to that again.
That what exists? I'm sorry.
That there are still people that after 6 years, for whatever reason, they may be productive in 6 years, but after that point, they become unproductive. Is that kind of your concern here?
Oh, I believe, yes,
I don't want to put
absolutely.
words.
Absolutely. Okay. But I also want to, first of all, I appreciate this opportunity to engage with everyone. Please feel free to send an email to me. Know that my intent hopefully is good, that the desired outcome is to motivate all to become as good as we can be. As I said, in our business, if we didn't do the job, we couldn't stay there, because you can't have people who are non-productive. And so I would say that we wouldn't change the whole review process. All it's doing is adding a component to where the president of the university has the ability to gauge things based on available data that every university has, that I've certainly seen over the years as well.
Representative, I want to quickly go through the Government and Veterans Affairs Committee. We'll hear this on Friday. Chaired again, I said, by Austin Schauer, Vice Chair Bernie Satcham. Members include Landon Bale, Claire Corey, Jeff Halverson, Jordan Johnson, Karen Carls, Scott Lauser, Carrie McLeod, Karen Rohr, Mary Schneider, Vicki Steiner, and Representative Vetter. So they can also get a hold of them at the North Dakota Legislative Council website if they wish to watch it that morning. If you just go to the legislative website, scroll down to the bottom, and about the middle that has video, and then they could go and click on House Government and Veterans Affairs Committee. But my question and last question for you, Representative Lefor, is if they wish to submit testimony for or against or with suggestions, how do they go about doing that to make sure that they have their voice or words heard?
Well, I
The committee
encourage pro and con argument, and so maybe this, at the end of the day, this legislation doesn't pass the legislature. But I still believe that meaningful discussion on this issue is important. You can go to the North Dakota Legislative Assembly website. You go to the, you can look at the bill number, you can look at it's on the House side, so you can go to the Government and Veterans Affairs Committee. As the senator said, all their email addresses are listed there. You can download testimony. And the committee looks at all of that. I know that any committee that I've ever served on, I made sure to read all the testimony. So if at the end of the day, this does not become a vehicle to change things, then let's continue to have a meaningful discussion about how we move North Dakota universities forward in a positive way. This was an idea that I came up with because it's happening in other states. And my concern is that if we don't stay competitive with other states, we're gonna be on the short end of this.
Well, again, thank you for your time. I know one of the reasons why, the only reason why we scheduled at this time was more people are available around the noon hour. And you have a floor session at 1 o'clock in the House that does not start until you give them the go ahead to start. So I know you have to leave, but I want to thank you for joining us today, telling us the components of the bills, answering hard questions. And I'm guessing there'll be additional feedback you'll receive both email and otherwise.
Please. I'm very open to ideas. I'm open to suggestions. And again, I appreciate this opportunity to visit with you all today and glad to have the discussion.
And I want to thank your administrative assistant for helping us set things up, and also Tyler Walson and Dr. Dennis Cooley, who set it up at NDSU and on behalf of the Northern Plains Ethics Institute. So I am Tim Flacco, and I think we are going to sign off here. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today. There was more than 160 people that joined us for all or part of this. So I want to thank all of them for engaging in this process to really vigorously discuss important issues in North Dakota. Thank you.